Hey everybody, it's your best friend, Jeremy Greer, here to tell you to go to Duckfeed.tv/store so that you can check out the Diggity Duck Bundle Volume 2. This is a collection of episodes from the Duckfeed.tv network, including Days of Future Cast. Me and Gary covered the X-Men anime, which I know all of you are excited to listen to. So go check that out, Duckfeed.tv/store. And now it's time for some Avengers. I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where me and Gary discuss awful cartoons from the Marvel Universe. How are you today, Gary?
You know, I've been better,
okay.
But I'm excited to talk about this.
Are you? Because I was not very excited to watch it, that's for sure. These are bad.
It's a real dumb, bad cartoon. I didn't know that it would be bad and dumb. I just know it has a bad reputation. And I'm still on board with it. I still laughed a lot during it. I think that there's a lot of stuff in the Avengers United They Stand cartoon that is funny, but not particularly good.
Yeah.
How is it more dated? The 1990s X-Men cartoon is kind of the poster boy for that's 90s X-Men. Seems significantly more timeless than this, which is extremely dated.
Yeah, maybe it's just coming off of, covering so much X-Men of the animated series. Maybe I'm just more used to it, but the weird armor design,
oh man,
just get this out of the way. There's nothing in this cartoon that looks cool or good. All of the designs, literally every single character and villain, every hero, every villain, any randos that just happen to show up, they all look terrible.
That is 95% to 99% true. Yes, I think Falcon looks pretty cool. Red Wing, not the Falcon, Red Wing specifically. And I think Swordsman looks like Swordsman. I think it's the comic book version.
Who the fuck is Swordsman? We're not even going to talk about him today. We're talking about him in 2 weeks. He's just some dude who knows how to use a sword and do crimes.
He's from Avengers number 17. It's real weird. They went real back to shitty old Avengers for a lot of this stuff. It is a misguided and poorly designed and written cartoon. And it is substandard to the X-Men cartoon in almost every way. Not least of which, I was amazed watching these, how bad the action was. The fight scenes have no direction to them. There's no kind of camera work. It feels like people just stand and shoot beams at each other.
Yeah, this is very much everybody has a beam power. No matter
if you like beams, fucking A, you will love this cartoon. This first 2 episodes, I didn't count. I really wish I had. What do you think the over under is on how many times someone shoots a beam at Vision and he turns intangible?
Oh, I mean, you take a shot anytime
6?
Vision goes intangible to equalize a threat, to neutralize a threat, and you'd be drunk in 20 minutes. There's no question to me.
Nobody learns.
Nobody even comments on it. Nobody even says he's turning invisible, guys.
Nobody figures it out. And we complained about the X-Men forgetting they had powers all the time. Everyone remembers that they have powers in this cartoon, but they forget that other people do. It's somehow worse.
Well, and it's also worse because whenever they remember to use their powers, they're not extremely good at it, and it doesn't look great. So, you get Hawkeye, who is just this weird square, it's I went to an 8-bit pixel editor, you know what I'm saying, with the squares, and I just started filling in garbage, and some of it was purple and I made a tiny H in the corner and called it Hawkeye. That's what this looks like. It's bad, but all he does is shoot arrows at stuff, which I know is Hawkeye's game, but it's just awful. It's just all of the arrows are bad. The arrows are just I'm going to shoot this at you and it's going to explode. It's not even clever.
Yeah, there's no clever application of power that happens in this. There's one thing Hawkeye does that is a combat trick, but it's one thing over 4 episodes. And this is a second string Avengers team. We'll talk about the cast and stuff here in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
This is a second string Avengers team. So it makes sense for them to suck, but not quite this much. You know, I just imagine, I want there to be like a coda that's just like Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man just like slowly shaking their heads.
At the end of every episode.
During the credits, they just show the three of them in an IHOP, like Thor's drawing on a menu and Captain America and Iron Man are talking about whether they need to disown the West Coast Avengers. Like, do we should dissolve this? Like, do you guys want to be Forceworks? What should we do?
Gary, I don't want you to get a lot of hate mail, so I'm just going to go ahead and correct you real quick. I believe you meant IHOB, not IHOB.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that we get that right, in case we don't get anybody sending us an email. I forgot
about that. That's such a weird choice.
It's definitely a weird choice. Yeah. So let's talk about the history of this a little bit, because I'm like, this came upon the heels of X-Men, the animated series. It feels very much like a toy grab. There's some interesting...
Well, initially... Mm-hmm. Yeah, like initially the idea was this was supposed to come out around the same time as X-Men. So, and there's a bunch of cartoons that did. Like, I was doing like some, you know, quote unquote research, right? Like as much research as I do for the show, because I suck. But as much research, and I was like, oh yeah, there is like an Iron Man and Hulk cartoon that was contemporaneous with the Spider-Man and X-Men cartoon. You know, so like if we wanted to keep this 90s, like we got another, 4 or 5 seasons of stuff we could cover, and those look pretty wild. Like I was watching those. Those came out in the early to mid 90s. This was supposed to come out, but right when they approved it, like they were like, should we do it? Should we not do it? The studio was like, oh, we'd rather have a Captain America cartoon. They were kind of doing back and forth, and then Marvel went bankrupt. And people who know comics history know Marvel went bankrupt for a while in the 90s. So they couldn't do the cartoon, and then they ended up reviving it once Marvel got back on their feet. But by then it was 1999, and I can only imagine that this is totally different because of that. Because this definitely feels like a late 90s product as opposed to an early 90s product to me.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you just mean by late 90s just bad, then yeah, like this feels like late 90s to me.
So specifically, right? Like, so we talked about the armor, and we're going to talk about the armor a lot. Like, don't think people think this is our type 5 on the armor, and you're never going to hear about it.
Nope.
You're going to keep hearing about its armor. That's like very clearly a Super Sentai thing. Like that is those sequences when they armor up and stuff. That is like a Power Rangers.
Oh,
deal.
Okay. I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
And like that was a thing that happened kind of between the X-Men and this. Like that became a thing du jour. Everyone's like, hey, we love these Super Sentais. Like we got to make the Avengers Super Sentais. And except they don't do kung fu, they just do beams. Like we still have these like long armor up sequences. Look like Sailor Moon or something.
Yeah. It's those sequences are pretty awful. It has one of my favorite bits that the show does, which I don't think is intentional, but I want to go ahead and talk about it here in case I forget about it, because when Hawkeye puts his armor on, he's got a belt buckle on just his like normal outfit, which is also looks very armored up to me, but normal outfit Hawkeye just has like an Avengers logo, like stylized A on his belt buckle, but when he puts his armor in, he gets a bigger belt buckle, which the same exact design, and it just buckles up right in front of so the dude is wearing
his belt buckle has a belt buckle.
Yeah. It's like if the Fallout power armor had a belt buckle that you had to strap down, and it was just the same one that you were wearing on the inside of the power armor. I'd assume that you wear clothes inside power armor. I have not played Fallout in a long time, so
yeah. You definitely can. I'm playing Fallout 4 again, and I am wearing a full set of armor that I wear inside my power armor. Like I am an Avenger United. They stand.
Hell yes.
And I'm even wearing the Mechanist armor, which is like the fake superhero from that game that looks like old Iron Man armor. So it's cool. I wear Iron Man Mark 1 armor and then get into power armor. It's real dumb. Everybody already looks armored, and then they armor up some more. And these designs, like, they feel like they were made from like a Flash game, like a promotional serial Flash game that lets you create your own superhero.
Okay, yeah.
To me, like just like choose a cape, choose a belt buckle, choose a headwear and stuff, and you just kind of go through these sliders. Is what it feels like to me. Like the art style, everyone is real big and blocky and torso-y. In a way that is really hard to describe, like what this art style is going for.
Well, and they don't let there's nobody has like a solid color of anything. Everything is patchwork. So like I keep going back to Hawkeye. I think Hawkeye is possibly the worst outside of Ant-Man in this, but I mean all of them are significantly bad, but like I think Hawkeye might be the worst because he's he's just got like purple highlights everywhere. He's got like a purple mask, but like there's also silver and blue and red and gold and all of this stuff all over his body, and just kind of, it really does look like somebody just was like, it's like a paint by numbers kid, like a paint by numbers seeker. Yeah. It's like a really
color dinosaur.
Like if Jeremy at 8 years old found a paint by numbers thing and just was like, I don't know how to draw, I don't know how to color. Like it just started drawing shit. Like it's not good. It's almost distractingly bad throughout the entire thing too. Like you're just looking at this stuff. Anytime Ant-Man gets big or small, I don't know, man. Like his armor just gets weird. In the first episode, we're dealing with Ultron, and Ultron's fucking shoulder pads, Gary, get like enormous. He builds himself extra shoulder pads.
He puts shoulder pads on his shoulder pads. He takes a page out of Hawkeye's book. It's like, maybe my belt would like to wear a belt. Maybe my shoulder pads need some shoulder protection. Like this fucking Quado and this shit. And I'm glad you brought up Ultron, because we're concentrating a lot on the visual design. Not enough shit can be talked about like the audio design of the show and the voice work. Both of which lack all of the charisma. And like we talked a lot about like episode 1 of Days of Future Cast. We're talking about the X-Men animated series. One of the highest compliments of that show, and it sounds trivial, and it's not. Like it's actually a really important thing, is how much those characters sounded like the versions in my head. I was reading the comics. Like this is great. Like that Professor Xavier voice is perfect. Magneto's voice is perfect. The sound effect when Wolverine pops his claws or Magneto uses his powers are all perfect. The Avengers did the opposite of all of that. Everyone either has like a voice that's either like, Guy Whitey hero good, all the male characters specifically. The ladies actually fare a lot better on this, but it's either like Guy Whitey hero good or off-brand Wolverine.
Yep.
And those are the and the Falcon, and the token black guy voice. But like, it's just those three modes. Like everyone has this low growl, including Ultron, who's like, they will suffer for, and like he sounds like fucking. I was gonna say Skeletor, but Skeletor has a really unique voice. Like they sound like just like a generic bad guy.
Sounds like a bad white rapper trying to do a gangsta voice, is what he sounds
like. A little bit.
He's really down here, and he's talking about the streets. Like it's one of those things, and they just put like a filter on it to make it sound kind of robotic. Like it's like, not. It's all bad. You're right. It's very much like the fake Wolverine kind of voice that everyone's trying to put on. Like
a rapper ogre. Like he sounds like like and then
Shrek
the audio
rap?
Design.
It's Days of Future Cast. This week's poll, go to facebook.com/whatever. Yeah. We don't care. Just fill it out somewhere.
It is, everyone would say yes. Like that is the easiest poll in the world. Like no one's gonna say Shrek can't rap. Like no one will ever ascribe anything negative to Shrek because of memes. Everyone loves Shrek. Like, do I want Shrek to fuck me? Yes. Do I want Shrek to be the president? Yes. Do I want Shrek to get a record deal? Yep. Everyone just Shrek. But the other half of that, the voice work, is the audio design, which is ridiculous. Like in this thing, like we're gonna go through the characters. Fucking Tigra. Every time she moves, like when you described it to me, I thought it was every time she talked, they put a cat noise in the background, like Alva.
No. Almost every time she moves, yeah.
She jumps on the wall, and then you hear a cat, like an unrelated cat from off screen, going, wow.
The sound mix is so bad, and it has it has nothing to do with what she's doing. Like, it's so off from what she's physically doing on the screen that I thought it was a different cat. I thought she was, the first couple of times, I was like, is she about to go, does Ultron have a cat that she's about to go fight? Like, what, did I miss this?
I am actually super down for Ultron having a cat, in general. So there ain't no strings on me because my cat keeps playing with them.
That's really good.
And then like Vision's weird like echo that he has on everything he says. Like there's just a lot of weird fucking choices that are made in this show that I cannot get behind. And like, I think these are going to make fun episodes, so I'm looking forward to watching the rest of it. I've been curious about this show since I knew it was a thing. Like I found out about the show because of the action figures.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I like the Avengers. I'd watch an Avengers cartoon. If it wasn't for this show, I would have 100% stopped after the first episode and never looked at this again.
Yeah.
It is excruciating.
Same. I did I watched the first I think it was the first 5 minutes of it, and just when we first decided to talk about it, and I went and grabbed the episodes, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch the first 5 minutes of this, and I got about 5 minutes in, and I think that's what it would have been my stopping point. I think I would have just gone I don't really have enough time in my life to support this, but doing it for the show, and I think we'll get a lot of chuckles out of it. Like, there's a lot of weird decisions that I kind of can't wait to talk about. Like Hawkeye specifically has some really weird moments in this cartoon in the first 4 episodes that I've watched. So I think we'll get a lot of value out of it. But I'm with you, man. Like, there's no way that I'd be posting up on the couch and putting this bad boy in as entertainment. Yeah. Like, I don't. I would question the moral judgment of anybody who does.
Imagine you go over to your buddy's house and he's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna put in a DVD," and you're like, "Cool," and then he puts in this. He sits down and puts his feet up on the coffee table, grabs some popcorn, and it's just that one's Hawkeye. It's supposed to be hell yeah.
Excuse me? What? I thought we were watching Twin Peaks, dog. What are you doing? What is this?
My sincere hope is that as the series goes on, it finds a little bit of a voice, and there's some genuine goodness to be found. I think that episode 3 of this cartoon is a marked improvement over episode 1 and 2. I am more interested in what happens. I think it's kind of cool, at least a little bit.
Okay.
But for people who don't, if people are not here for the negativity, I understand, internet fandoms are weird and people have feelings I can't always relate to about positivity and negativity. There's especially we're recording this during E3, so there's a lot of E3 forward-lash and backlash about it, in general. And some people just, they can't handle negativity at all. And I don't relate to that, but I understand it exists. If you are that person, this may not be the season of this show for you. I don't want anyone to leave. I want you to stick around, but this is a bad cartoon and we're not going to treat it like it's good.
So if this is your special, if you grew up watching this with your little brother and your father, and both of those people have passed away, and you watch this and you treasure the memories together,
you play at their funeral.
Yeah, you don't need to listen to this pod. If you have really positive memories and you don't want somebody to tarnish that, you definitely probably don't want to listen to me talk about how bad Hawkeye looks, because I'm not going to stop talking about it. He looks bad in every single scene that he's in. And he has a really dumb handshake that I can't wait to talk about. So I kind of with Gary on this of this is, it's for as much affection as I think we had for the X-Men animated series going into it, and I think as much affection as we found during the podcast, actually rewatching all these episodes and being surprised at how good and sometimes how bad they were. I don't think any of that is going to exist here. I have no faith that the show is going to find any kind of voice whatsoever. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I'm kind of here just to go through these episodes and talk about it. But just because they're so ridiculous, Gary, I can't imagine that there's a fandom for this. I'm astonished that they did a DVD release 10 years later. Was there some completionist, comic book collector fan that was we have to have this, you released it, we have to have a DVD copy? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised by this getting a release, and it has to have been in the wake of the movie, right? That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I guess, yeah.
But imagine being catfished like that. All my favorites, I love the Avengers, I love Hulk and Captain America, Iron Man, Hawkeye, all those guys. I love Ant-Man. Oh, cool. This has some of them. Let's watch this. And then, this is the show you get. It's pretty out there. So let's,
you want to get into it?
Let's talk about our cast.
Okay.
Our setup before we get into it, just because, it makes sense to kind of establish who we're talking about. And these episodes, it's going to sound like these episodes are going to be long. This first episode, 60% of it is people shooting beams at a barely animated Vision who just dissolves. It happens a lot. So we're going to be
talking a lot
quick.
about targets being acquired and targets leaving.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of conversation about that.
So I'm just going in order here on the Wikipedia. We have the Wasp in this cartoon, which I like, founding Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Wasp getting some screen time, and I don't think the Wasp is bad in this cartoon. The costume is not offensive. We haven't gotten a Wasp highlight episode or anything, so we don't really know a lot about her personality.
Did you just say not offensive, Gary? She has insect leg blasters coming out of her back.
I don't mind
like,
the blasters, man.
So bad. It's like they're like extra arms, I guess, because she's a wasp. But like they don't animate well. So when she turns around, sometimes they follow her, and maybe sometimes they don't.
That's true.
I guess not offensive. Okay, well, official.
I'm judging on a curve, Jeremy. The curve with Hawkeye being the absolute worst, and then probably like Tigra being the best. Like,
yeah, Tigra is actually, if you want to talk about non-offensive, like Tigra looks pretty much like I expected her to look from the comics. Like she's got some nominal clothing, but otherwise she looks like a sexified tiger, which is exactly when I think of Tigra from Marvel, from the Avengers comics. That's what I think about. So
yeah, and so we can talk about Tigra. So Tigra's in this like a pretty obscure Avenger, has the cat noises whenever she jumps. Mm-hmm. Really odd, voiced by Rogue, the same voice actress as Rogue. Not really doing that different of a voice. I also just learned just now that Lenore Zann, who is the voice actress, is like a political figure now.
Oh, cool!
It's like as a political career starting in 2009 in Nova Scotia.
Oh, I thought maybe we had talked about that at some point. I remember that. That's good. That's good for her.
Yeah. What ran on the Nova Scotia New Democratic Party nomination on the riding of the Truro Bible Hill. I don't. At the same day, an employee of the Liberal Party leaked a topless photo of her to the media from her appearance on the L Word. Wow. So all kinds of scandal with Rogue's voice actress.
I like you have to leak L Word screenshots to the media because nobody has a Showtime
just a DVD
subscription.
It's just a Netflix password.
Well, there's a topless picture of our president pro tem, but we'd have to load it up, and I don't really want that on my Netflix queue. You know what I'm saying? I have to use my wife's profile.
I don't want my wife. Well, oh, you mean the L Word? Yeah, I don't really I don't want my Netflix recommendations being all fucked up. So I don't want to watch shows like the L Word.
I have actually no idea what the L Word is. I think I vaguely remember it being about homosexual women, but I've never watched an episode of it. So
yeah, I also don't know what it is. But anyway, so that's Tigra. Tigra is pretty good in this, I think. At least comparatively. Mm-hmm. Like Tigra is not bad at all. I'm gonna save Hawkeye for last.
Okay.
So we got, they have a Jarvis, but Jarvis doesn't do very much. I think it's a real slap in the face to Tony Stark that Jarvis still has to work there.
I like how Jarvis comes with the mansion. Like, he doesn't come with Tony Stark. He comes with the actual mansion. It'd be like if Batman was just like, Alfred, you work for the Joker now. Bye. Well,
and he's not a computer. Like, people who just know the TV, know the movies. Of course he came with the mansion. He's a computer. No.
He's
in the comics, he's a guy.
He's a dude.
So it's pretty weird. But the Jarvis in this, not that big a deal. We have a Scarlet Witch who's in the show, who I also think is generally fairly successful. I like that Scarlet Witch for once has an accent that is like super Eastern European, which it should be. In the first 2 episodes, every time she uses her power, it just shoots a beam, which is fucking dumb.
Yep.
But by episode 3 and 4, her powers start doing more interesting things, which I think has some potential.
I hope they lean more into that, because I think that there's a lot of really fertile ground in showing the Scarlet Witch powers. Like, if you can pull off Domino and Deadpool 2, to me, you could pull off a Scarlet Witch pretty easily. Make her do a bunch of weird stuff. But she does the Storm thing where she announces, she calls all of her plays ahead of time. She's like, by the winds of whatever, let
the winds of fate be redirected or something like that.
Yeah, and then shoots a beam of fire at somebody, and they're like, ow. That's it. Yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah, that is really dumb. Again, though, it changes a little bit as the show goes on. And actually does start, it changes, trajectories and stuff like that. Does change things other than just shoot a beam.
Yeah.
So that's good, at the very least. But I also, again, I like that she is extremely Eastern European. The voice actress sounds like I've always pictured, Scarlet Witch, which should be Roma as hell.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense to me. Next up we got, Wonder Man. Can we camp out on Wonder Man's, weird fucking torso?
Yeah,
his gigantic trapezoid that he's rocking.
The upside down pyramid that goes directly into his suspenders, so that he looks like a dock worker or something.
He's from a different cartoon, it seems like.
He seems like he does not fit in here, which is good because he disappears very quickly, so we don't even have to worry about it very much. But also don't really, besides like vague Superman powers, like I don't really understand. Like, I know he can fly and he can like punch real good because he's strong, and that's really all I got for his powers. Like they don't show me anything past that. So I don't know. Does he have a gimmick? I don't even remember this dude from the comics.
He has a gimmick as far as his non powers. Like he is very like fame focused. He's an actor.
Okay.
And stuff. So he's like kind of an interesting character in the comics. Like not wonderful, but he's kind of an interesting character in the comics. He does just have Superman powers essentially. Okay. Which I'm fine with all of that. I just don't like how thick and weird his torso is. Like he looks like like another cartoon line. Like he looks a little bit like the Earth's Mightiest Heroes Avengers cartoon, which everyone is super exaggerated and torso heavy, and kind of stylized in like a Samurai Jack kind of way. In that cartoon, like
he definitely doesn't need any armor because like all of his armor are just all of his pecs. Like when
it's
they go
under
to
his skin.
Yeah, when they show the armor montage, which we'll talk about, like he doesn't even put anything on. They just show him like spinning around and like and that was it. Like he's in the same outfit because all of his pecs and abs are his armor.
Yeah, he's ordinarily he's just armor, and he just like skins up. It's fucking disgusting. Then we got the Falcon. Who I think is mostly okay. Dumb outfit.
Falcon's not bad. The outfit looks super dumb, especially once he armors up because then he has like giant blades coming off of his wrist, which I find kind of weird. Like I don't know why. If you're an Avenger, why do you have giant knives? You don't need giant knives, Mr. Avenger Man.
You've got a bird. And also one of the moments in this where I genuinely laughed out loud in episode 4 was because of the bird. The things that Red Wing does in this cartoon are pretty funny.
and he has genuine concern over Red Wing too, which I find very charming.
Yeah.
So.
And he's got a little nephew, so he's got like he's almost like a point of view character. It's kind of weird. Like he's the only one with an outside of the Avengers life.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is very strange, but he's fine. I think he's pretty cool in this. Looking forward to seeing what happens there. Vision. These first 2 episodes are going to deal with him being a villain and eventually absorbing Wonder Man, which happens in the comics. Vision's pretty bland, and has a really interesting power set that he refuses to use in interesting ways in this cartoon.
Yep.
Which drives me a little bit crazy.
And finally.
So Ant-Man. So not quite finally.
I forgot about Ant-Man. Yeah, sorry.
And like, this bums me out because I really like Hank Pym. Like this cartoon feels like it's made to challenge all the Avengers that I like. You know, like, because I'm a noted Hawkeye liker. I like Hawkeye, and I even like. I mean, I love Kate Bishop, but I even like original Hawkeye. I think Hawkeye is cool. Nobody likes Hawkeye in the movies or in general, like regular Hawkeye, and nobody likes Hank Pym. I kind of like Hank Pym. I think he's cool. I think it's a cool power set. I like his weird chip on his shoulder, you know, that he has. Even when they go real dark with him, I think it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the idea of like, oh, I don't want to, like in the Ultimates, you know, it's shitty because he's a villain in that thing, essentially, in that comic. Like he ends up like hitting his wife and stuff, and he's real bad, and he pays for it. But he's a bad guy in that comic. I like that comic because this idea of just like, you know, I can't, like, nobody can make me feel small. You know, I'm not as good a scientist as Tony Stark or Bruce Banner. And that
Richards,
burns me up
or
inside.
Peter Parker, or
100%. You know, like I'm a 5th string genius. You know, and the kinds of things that will do to your personality, I think, are interesting. There's like the Mighty Avengers came out with him as the leader. Around when I stopped reading comics, so this would have been like the late 2010s. Or the late 2000s rather. And I liked that comic a lot. Like it dealt with him feeling inadequate and shitty and trying to like turn it around and find his place in the world. And I like that a lot. Like I like Hank Pym.
Mm-hmm.
He is wasted in this. Like he is so bland. He does stop and do like science shit. So he is trying to solve problems through being a nerd. But it ends up making for very boring cartoons.
And it does this thing that we saw in the Secret Wars episodes of the Spider-Man cartoon, where he has to question his ability to lead all of the time. So you get these situations where like, oh, somebody didn't obey him, and that, you know, caused him to question his leadership ability. So now he has to yell at them for a while. So I don't know. I'm not like, it's a children's cartoon. I don't really need like somebody yelling at Hawkeye for doing a bad job for like 20 minutes, and which seems like the majority of this first episode.
I need everyone to yell at Hawkeye for the rest of the series, because this is nothing like, this is a total reinvention. This is so transparent that they wanted a Wolverine figure for this. I hate it.
Hawkeye, not only does he not have like for real powers, which has always kind of bugged me that he's an Avenger, but also it was kind of cool because he's like a normal dude who trains, so he could be there. But in this, he has this weirdly aggressive streak that, I mean, he's going to start challenging Falcon. When Falcon joins the team, he yells at Hank all of the time when Hank is doing his
He's
science
a dumb
stuff.
prick.
He's just a super dumb prick. And then like his backstory episode is so ridiculous, it makes me hate him more. That'll be in 2 weeks, everybody. We'll be talking about about Clint Barton going to the carnival. Can't wait to get there.
I'm actually extremely into. I think it's very funny. Like I think it's dumb too, but I think it's hilarious.
It's very funny and very dumb. But yeah, he in this, he's just kind of yelling at anybody and being kind of a cocksure, arrogant prick, and it's a weird characterization because. In the last few years, we've been blessed with good Hawkeye. Matt Fraction's run kind of brought him to the forefront. I haven't read it, but everybody speaks very highly of the Hawkeye and Deadpool series that was running around for a while. I'm kind of excited to read that. But in the movies, I think people hate him just because he doesn't do anything. Like the one time he really showed up to do anything, it was under Loki's command. So like he was a bad guy for half that movie. And when he's not doing that, he's kind of like hitting people or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they've kind of just written him out of the last two. I've heard a rumor because apparently he was on that Tag movie and he broke not one but both of his arms. So they were saying that's the reason. Yeah, that's the reason he wasn't in Infinity War. And I was like, that's a dumb reason not to be in Infinity War. Like Tag CGI'd your arms back in. I bet Marvel would too.
They only have half the budget of Tag.
Which I'm assuming is a movie about chasing people, right? That's the only way that the movie.
Have you seen the trailer for it?
I have not. No.
It's actually kind of like, I don't want to see it, but it's dumb in a way that feels singular to me.
Okay.
Like and the reason why is because it's about a group of friends that have been playing tag for like 20 years. And the thing that, that's so fucking dumb, but it's based on like a true story. Like I read an article about this group of friends and it's like a real thing where like one dude goes up and like they got real vicious about it. And they're like, tagging each other at weddings and funerals and shit.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it's like, it sounds
just a whole basket full of pricks interrupting family events. Excellent.
100%. Like it's that. And the only thing that makes it kind of interesting to me, again, not interesting enough to see, but is that it's real. Like, that's like, I'm surprised this wasn't optioned for a movie before because it sounds like a Hangover-esque, Zach Galifianakis vehicle to me, but made in real life, So anyway, so he lost both his arms. In Tag, couldn't be in the movie, and as punishment, they went back in time and made his cartoon character like it's not enough that he's like angry and gravelly like Wolverine. He's also super dumb. Like when Wolverine is angry and gravelly, we believe that like one, he can back it up, but two, like he's like the smartest guy in the room a lot of the time. He's real simple, but his whole thing is he cuts through the bullshit. Yeah. Like he's just telling it like it is. He sees it like as it is. This Hawkeye doesn't know jack dick. Like he's just like angry at everyone who calls him out or challenges him. Everyone who calls him out and challenges him are like right. Like the idea. So in the very first episode of the X-Men cartoon, Wolverine gets really upset because they left Morph behind. Right? It's a principled thing. Like we don't leave a man behind. It might have been a tactical decision, but it was the wrong moral one. It turns out he was right because Morph got compromised and became a villain. There were repercussions for that ruined Scott and Jean's wedding and went on for seasons, right? Like, that decision is shown to be correct. In this, the very first episode of the Avengers, Hawkeye decides, he gets distracted by something shiny in the air, decides to shoot it instead of guarding the president, gets yelled at by everyone and says, fuck you, and leaves the room flipping everybody off. It's like, really for no great reason. There's no principle behind it. Like, it's just, what if there was an angry prick? It is such a contrast of like how to do this kind of loner, aggressive character. And it's just amazingly inept.
it's weird too because part of Wolverine's whole thing is that he has this like feral side that you're kind of terrified of. Like he has this berserker mode that he can go into at any time. That's kind of dangerous, and you would expect like there's just not you would expect. There's just none of that with Hawkeye. Like, what is he going to do? Like, get another arrow or something? Like, it doesn't. Nobody cares, Hawkeye. Yeah. but they kind of
rage arrows.
They write him like there's some weird darkness to him, and there's just not. Like, or at least not yet in the first 4 episodes. I haven't seen him go berserker yet. He just gets kind of mad and storms off, and has weird moments with Wonder Man.
Yeah. We've got some other people who will show up, some villains and everything. We'll talk about them as they arrive, but those are our main characters. Pretty lame. Do you want to go ahead and just get into it?
Sure. Let's knock this out. I love it.
Yep. So season 1, episode 1 and 2, Avengers. This is called Avengers Assemble Part 1. An evil robot named Ultron creates an android called the Vision and sends it to destroy Ant-Man, the leader of the Avengers. To get Ant-Man's attention, the Vision attacks the U.S. president. And that's true.
Yep, all of these. I pulled all of these. These are very simple. I pulled them from IMDb just to give some credit there. And yeah, I couldn't find like original TV guide descriptions because I was hoping I could find some hilarity to mine out of those, but nope, I couldn't find them. So
nope.
And I didn't spend more than 30 seconds looking either. Just to go ahead and say that out loud. This intro is an extremely 90s thing with it's like this weird guitar noise and then just someone like shout whispering Avengers over and over again.
Yeah, it is catchy though. Like,
I guess so. I find like the music is mostly bad in this. Like there's like none of it is like it's amazing that the way that they pulled off the X-Men theme because it's such a recognizable tune. I think like you played it for anybody and they're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is, even if they didn't grow up with it. Whereas this is just like, here's some noise with somebody shouting Avengers in a whispery voice.
It goes back and forth between 2 riffs. Like really, it's real simple, but I do think the actual opening theme is catchy. I think the music in general in the cartoon is not good. Mm-hmm. Like the incidental music's not good, but I actually like the opening theme. I think it is good and fine. I might like it more than the Spider-Man one. So
that's not a high bar to cross.
No, it's not. We're dealing with West Coast.
We start out with with Ultron, who is just basically building Vision, in his like seaside hideaway lair, which I find very hilarious because he's a robot who built his entire hideout next to the sea, where he would just rust constantly. But whatever.
Well, also, what is he, like a mobster? You know, like this.
The hideout is really strange.
The warehouse district.
You don't need air. Like, just go find some place where nobody can find you. Go to the top of a mountain somewhere. There's a lot of like blue flashes of electricity. This is kind of this makes me feel like it's like a Frankenstein thing of like because they do the thing where they zoom into Vision's fingers and it moves, and I'm like, they're not bringing anybody back to life. He's just making another robot. Like, I expect this shit to work.
It's like, can you there's an alternate version of this where he's got a Nintendo Labo and the little tiny robot, like Joy-Con robot, crawls across the floor, the concrete floor, and it does a close up, and he's like, "I brought you to life.
He's alive." The entire time that Ultron is doing this, he's like yelling at nobody, right? He's talking about how perfect Vision is going to be, how he's going to be, I think he says virtually immortal, because he doesn't have any pesky flesh with the, to get in the way. It's exactly what you would expect out of Ultron. And then
it's very funny initially too, because he's building like a skull bot. Like he builds the robot skeleton and then coats it with the Vision's coating. Like, it seems like an inefficient way to make a robot to me.
I mean, look, are you a robot, Gary? Then you don't know a goddamn thing about building robots. Thought so.
You gotta build a robot. You gotta be a robot.
Ultron works himself up into a little tizzy because he's basically explaining to the viewer that he's going to send Vision out to the one man who keeps thwarting him, which is Ant-Man. Hank Pym, and Hank Pym's picture appears on like 15 different screens, which I don't know why like you have Siri set up to do that because it pisses you off so bad. Like if I just said Gary Butterfield in my house and my TV gave me a picture of Gary Butterfield, hold on. This is probably a good idea. Let me think it through.
Yeah.
But instead, Ultron gets really mad and uses his rocket fist to just go punch out all of the screens. This is fucking hilarious.
Shot of the rocket fist going from screen to screen.
It's fucking
like,
great.
And it goes through all of them. Like,
there's not a single screen left alive. His screen bill must be enormous.
Like the Ultron's like based in an abandoned Best Buy. Where he
just has a bunch of tube TVs that he keeps finding somewhere. Are you going to use the Sony Trinitron? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's extremely funny that he does this. And it's just to get on my, my high horse cartoon snobbery thing real quick. I swear I'm not going to bring this up all the time. Here is the reason why this is a worse cartoon than the X-Men, because the X-Men, we talked about it, is like about something. In the very first episode, it's like, oh, Sentinels, like the government wants to oppress mutants. Oh, we have a metaphor here. Like there is a metaphor between Ultron and Hank Pym. Like it's a father story. Like Ultron has daddy issues. And I think, we'll eventually cover it, but as being like a defender of Avengers 2, like I think that movie does that pretty well. Mm-hmm. Is that like him hating his creator? We don't know who any of these people are, and we don't know by the end of the episode either. So this idea that Ultron has this personal stake in destroying Hank Pym, like we just don't have any investment in it. This should be about daddy issues. Like they could have set this up as a thing. Like, Ultron has a bunch of weird teenager angst about being created to destroy and being created to be something, that he's not comfortable with, like not having agency in his creation. There is a metaphor there. Like there is thematic possibility, and they just don't do anything with it. He's just Skeletor. Like he's just Dr. Claw, and it sucks.
The best thing about this is it's going to play out in a delightful way towards the end of it, where Hank Pym sees Ultron and has no idea who he is, which is the biggest own you could ever give a supervillain. Like, imagine if Dr. Doom rolled up and it was like, I've got Sue, and Reed Richards was like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Why are you in green? What are you doing?
It's exactly like, and then eventually, like, Hank, they try to do a little bit of that. Like, we'll get to it. Like, Hank says, like, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm sorry, and kind of apologizes, and they just don't lay track for it. Like, that track should be being laid now, as opposed to this montage of a rocket fist, going screen to screen. It's really, real dumb.
Real bad. This segues over to what Ant-Man is currently doing, which is kind of watching some news coverage. The Avengers are about to receive an award from the president because they have done so well in all of the things that they do. And then his wife, I guess, his girl, definitely his love interest. I don't know if they're married.
Yeah, wife.
So she walks in and he's basically like, I don't really know if we should, like, I've always thought the Avengers should stay out of the spotlight. And she's like, no, we're definitely going to do this. Like, this is what the big three would have wanted. And like the camera pans up and you just see these enormous, intimidating portraits of Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, which apparently were not in this movie because the people kind of think that their rights were tied up with the eventual movies that they're going to do for the MCU. So, dodged a bullet there, fellas. That's got lucky.
It looks like very specifically trading card art.
Yes, it does. Me. That Iron Man thing. I think I have that Iron Man card somewhere. Yeah.
So they went down to Kinko's and got gigantic trading cards printed up to put on their walls of the real Avengers.
Yeah.
Again, they're the thematic thing this cartoon could be about, and is not. But it's very funny, they pan over to them. We pan over to the not danger room, like whatever the Avengers version of the danger room is, where Wonder Man and Scarlet Witch are sparring and fighting each other. They are also a romance. They are BFGF.
Are they? Because I just assumed that because I kind of assumed that like she was into Wonder Man, but Wonder Man struck me as like a kind of a fucking idiot and who had no idea. And so that's the way I read this. I might be looking too deeply into the writing though, Carrie. How I might be too.
I might be bringing comic book to this because that they are in the comics. But I think she says something about it when Vision gets transported into Wonder Man's body, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I think she says something about that. So I think that she does have feelings for him at this point.
Cool. And this is where we first see Scarlet Witch's power, which is like shoot a beam of something. Sometimes it's a curly beam, sometimes it's a straight beam, just like French fries. That's basically what her power is.
Sometimes it's onion rings. It's real.
And then
The forces of chaos are mysterious.
Yeah, that's Havoc, Gary. Get with the program. What are you doing? This is the Avengers. Havoc was in the Avengers at some point, maybe. I feel like everybody has been an Avenger at some point.
Maybe in the new ones, the UX or the X Avengers or whatever, like one of their crossover teams or something.
Who the fuck knows?
Also sparring in like a different sparring room. I don't know. Yeah. Is Tigra and Hawkeye there? And Tigra is doing her wall runs, which every time she steps, it makes a cat noise.
Yep.
And Hawkeye is just fucking sucking.
Just the worst dude. He's the worst dude on the team. Tigra, do you think that she has do you think she's playing that? Like, do you think she has speakers on her uniform that's playing the cat noises? she's got
Heelys. She's got those shoes that when you step, they make a light, but she's wired them up to a Zune.
Exactly. So they're just loud cat noises the entire time. I was playing Dark Souls recently. I don't know if you've played Dark Souls, Gary, but it's a pretty fun action adventure game. You might like it. But I had to go join the Forest Covenant, so I had to go talk to Alvina for a little while. Mm-hmm. And boy, is this very reminiscent of Alvina, because the entire time she's talking, like you can hear this weird cat growling in the background. It's very much like that, except just like whenever Tigra is doing anything.
It's actually hilarious, like that thing with Alvina. Because it's not just a really cat; dumb. It's specifically that viral video of the cat going "no, no, 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 no."
So while they're sparring, we get the first Avengers Assemble cry from Hank, and when everybody gets there, the president is being attacked. Weird robot insect bird things are attacking the president's helicopter. So the Avengers have to put on their armor.
Yes.
And oh boy, Gary, do I hate this. I hate this so much.
It feels extremely fillery. And it's a thing, like I don't like Sentai shows. I think that they're bad. And I don't like these. This is one of the reasons, is this repetitive sequence of people armoring up. Like, it's kind of like, I understand how it could be appealing to people. Like, it's a little bit like a chorus. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's just comforting. Like, every time this happens, I get to see these familiar images and I know some shit's about to get fucked up. I find it to be an annoying aspect of that genre. And this is straight out of that. Like, these armor up sequences, because they just take place in like an energy void.
Yep.
You know, and the character's like pivoting on even though like it's specifically, Falcon does it later, and it's a chamber. Like, they show it to us as like an energy void, but this is actually a chamber that exists. So like, do they wait in line to go into the chamber? Like, do they each get a chamber in their room? Like, it's pretty weird. It's like BioShock style Vita chamber that they do this
really
in.
Strange. I must have missed the chamber. I thought this just all happened. Like, I thought like this was the transition between them, like, you know, being normal Avengers. Because I think this is the thing we need to remember too. It's not like they're all dressed in plain clothes. Like, they all have outfits. They all have a uniform, right?
They are wearing costumes.
Yeah, they are wearing, like, Hawkeye has a recognizable uniform, and then he puts on some armor on top of that. Like, it's their quote unquote battle armor that they're going to go into battle with. So like, it's not like Hawkeye's just hanging out with, you know, some Umbros and a polo shirt or anything. That's the kind of dude that's the kind of outfit that dude would wear. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But sorry to any Umbro fans out there. But yeah, like, they're putting like more uniform on top of existing uniform. Like, it's very weird and
extremely funny. Like, imagine if Batman like was wearing the blue Batman uniform and then put on the black Batman uniform over it.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
It's exactly that. It's very very silly.
Oh man, it's so bad.
I laughed when this happened a lot, but it wasn't like I was laughing with the show. Like, I got some joy out of it, but it's not because of what they wanted me to feel. I feel like all of this
could go. You mentioned Power Rangers, and I feel like I've watched a little bit of Kamen Rider recently.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some of that here, some of that in the Kamen Rider series, where when the dude like puts on his suit or whatever, he gets kind of charged up and goes after it. And over there, like, there's a lot of cool like kung fu moves, and also it's a real person, and like they do some kind of practical effects to make it look cool.
Yeah.
And, so like it kind of works for me over there, whereas here these are just like characters spinning around in like you said, an energy void, and it's the same animation every time. Like, there's no context to it. Like, it's just the same stuff you're going to see ever. Like, the first time you see Falcon get the weird wrist blades is the last time you're going to see Falcon get the wrist blades. Like, that's going to look exactly the same.
It's real similar to Sailor Moon. actually, like where they're just kind of in a void. And like I recognize that, like, as much as I don't like Super Sentai, like I recognize that's real kung fu, and I like watching people do that more than I like watching these people shoot beams at each other. I think the thing with that is like it's the ones I've seen, like, which include some Kamen Rider, and then another one that the one where, like, I don't think it's the same one where like people are food based, because my two people in my game group are real into that, and I've watched some, and I just think that like it ends up just being kung fu fights, like against mooks. Like, imagine just the Ninja Turtles, if the Ninja Turtles all had, were all identical and they just fight the Foot Clan. Like, is what 90% of those shows feel like to me. Like, I just don't want to watch kung fu fights that long against like mooks. Like, when I watch kung fu, like, I'll go and watch kung fu theater from time to time. Like, I am there for real unpredictable plots and like weird ninja magic shit. Like, oh, this guy spins around until caterpillar webs come out of his eyes. That's fucking out there. Like, nothing like that ever happens in those cartoons.
Doesn't happen in this cartoon either, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I would be here for Caterpillar Band, but nope.
Yeah, Caterpillar Band he's on the East Coast Avengers.
Did you say caterpillars or cobwebs? Because either one I'm kind of here for, and I'm kind of feel like that should be a team up, like just people that spin around and different kind of insects come out of there.
Hollow Knight DLC.
Yeah, exactly.
So they armor up, but of course this is a trap.
Yeah, Ultron is playing this. On the way over, that something gets this dude's house gets exploded, and we get introduced to Sam, aka the Falcon, who thankfully only first episode we get, just like we did, and we saw this with Bishop as well. Every time we saw Bishop, like we heard in the X-Men anime series, we heard that weird harmonica. Here, it's a saxophone in the mix.
Sexy
for some
sax.
reason. It's
specifically like it's improvised. It's not like a melody.
No,
it's definitely somebody improvising some sexy sax.
Just going.
Oh
no! It's just I can't even. I might have to just drop some audio in here just to play it, because it's bad, Gary.
It's hilarious. Like, it is extremely bad. Every time it happened, I laughed really loud, though.
Me too.
It goes away, though, too.
Yeah. After this first episode, I think we don't hear it anymore. Like, it was just an introductory thing. So,
yeah, they figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
That this was extremely dumb. So I'm glad that they did.
So we're going to get to the park where a majority of this episode is going to take place, because we're going to fight a bunch of stuff here. There's Ant-Man shows up first or shows up in the plane, and Vision is basically like, I'm going to destroy him. And then, they all the Avengers jump out of the plane and like start hitting some robots in some kind of middling level action sequences.
It's worth pointing out too that like something that keeps happening in this is the Avengers keep referring to different plans and maneuvers that they have. Like, they're like, do AA -8. Maneuver, 64212, and it never
double
sounds
up
cool.
6.
Yeah, double up 6.
I think that's the one I noted down. Yeah.
So this is one of those, which like implies some training, but then they actually act like huge idiots and don't stick to the plan. So, because Tigra immediately falls out of the plane, lands and hurts her knee, like I was jumping out of a plane.
I was about to say, I mean, if you're a superhero, either you know whether or not you can jump out of a plane and do the superhero landing, right? Like, you have to know that already. If you don't already know that, then you're fucking up. Like, you can't or don't jump out of the plane. That's an easy solve right there.
If you have super agility, this should be within your moveset, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very funny that she immediately gets hurt. Falcon and his saxophone and bird show up and save her, which is good. The president's helicopter crashes, and the Vision actually knocks out this cartoon shitty version of the Quinjet.
What is that? Which is like, thing, man? It's not.
Yeah, it looks like a transformer.
Yeah, it's like black with like kind of red streaks, and I'm already making it sound cooler than it actually is. Like, I don't. It's like if I tried to Photoshop a cool jet and just like, man, like I'm gonna put like this red outline on it. Oh yeah, that looks dope. I feel like Alienware designed this computer.
Yeah, it it is like a flying graphics card.
Yeah, it's a flying flying NVIDIA card. Thank you. No, it is a flying NVIDIA card box. Like, it's not the actual card; it's the outside of the.
Deploy the Razer Edge gaming mouse.
Watch out, fellas. Yeah. Ultron is flying a Sound Blaster 32, all WE. Whatever the fuck they were called.
It's very funny. So Vision destroys the jet. So they're crashing down. Hawkeye is supposed to kind of protect the president. Here's our first sequence of many of him shooting arrows at Vision. Vision turning intangible, which they make him turn invisible at the same time, which like just felt like an animation cheat to me. Mm-hmm. Wonder Man tries to hit him. Also, he turns intangible. Like it's his one move. These actual Transformers show up. Like everything is Transformer. These news vans show up, and then they transform into like gun vehicles.
Gary, this got a really big chuckle out of me because, I mean, like the president runs up to these news vans that might as well have like ABC or Fox written on the side of them. And then immediately they just all transform into like guns, essentially. And I just couldn't get the words fake news vans out of my head. And I just kept laughing over and over and over again because they were fake news vans. And that's the president's biggest enemy is fake news vans.
He hates them. He hates
hates fake news vans. Oh man, I'm sorry. I got a huge kick out of this. Like this made me laugh a lot.
It's pretty good.
Because I think what happens here is that Hawkeye ran off to like try to shoot somebody else, and the president is in trouble. Falcon saves the president here, and then Hawkeye blows up all three vans with like 2 arrows, which doesn't seem like. I don't know. Why are you even carrying those around? That seems like a dangerous thing to even have strapped to your back.
Well, according to Avengers Disassembled, it is. Vision is like, I cannot kill. So the Avengers are not doing a good show of this, apparently, but the Vision still says, I cannot, it's impossible to kill Ant-Man during this. It's like, you probably could have tried a little bit harder, but Ultron calls him back. He calls him home. And we get to Hawkeye, like, hey, you were supposed to protect the president. And like, he's the president. It's very weird that Hawkeye decided this was optional, like at any point. Like, I don't actually have to protect this guy. I'm going to go shoot at something shiny.
I love the consequence of this, too, because we're going to find out in just a couple of minutes that because of this, because Hawkeye's trying to argue, like, well, we saved him. Like, what else does he want? He's like, well, he probably wants his left eye back. The president lost his eye because Hawkeye is an idiot.
Yep, I love it. Good. President Cyclops.
We have an eye patch president now because of Hawkeye the idiot. I love it.
I love it so much. It's very funny.
Do you think they were actually writing Hawkeye from MASH, the sitcom, and supposed to Hawkeye? Because this feels like a very Hawkeye kind of plan, right? Like, was he going over there to mind his gin still? Is that what he was doing in the middle of this fight?
I really hope this pays off in the future whenever they show the president he's got an eye patch.
Me too.
Or just like a big bleeding sore.
Either one's fine. I'm okay with either one. Yeah. So we go back to the Avengers mansion where there's like a government guy there, like that is yelling at the Avengers, basically saying like, we give you guys a free hand, but we expect results, and this didn't happen, and the president wants that Falcon guy. The Falcon guy saved everybody, and Hawkeye's like, yeah, but he doesn't. We're international. He's the only local, and I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? He still has he can still fly. Like, seems like a legit power set.
And it would be much better if this had been this wasn't the first episode too. Like we had seen the Avengers do shit that this guy couldn't do. Yeah. So pretty annoying. And he just keeps getting, he never backs down. Like everyone in the world, when he's called on something, he just doubles down on it.
The president actually demands. He's like, basically the president never wants to see Hawkeye again, which like, yeah, me too. And then, and then he wants Falcon to be put on the team. And that's what really pisses Hawkeye off. Is Hawkeye's like, hey, we should have a vote in this. We don't just put randos on the team. Like, this should be a decision. And Ant-Man, because he's talking to the government and the president, is like, well, I mean, maybe you could just shut the fuck up for 10 seconds, and I can handle all this other stuff, and then maybe we could do something. But no, Hawkeye just gets so mad, and he has to like storm out and flipping the bird everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he takes off, destroys the plaque that they were going to get. Yeah. So, it's very funny, like that tiny little plaque the Avengers were going to get. Can you imagine them like putting that up in one of their gigantic, 30-foot tall walls next to a giant trading card of Iron Man? There's just a tiny plaque the government gave them.
You think they're going to put that in between Captain America and Thor, or Thor and Iron Man? Like, which wall is that going to go on?
I think it's going to go in Wasp's secret safe, which we learn about soon. Which is one of my favorite details in this cartoon.
Pretty excited about that one.
Yeah, super good. So Hawkeye storms out. Wonder Man follows him. Hawkeye says, like, Wonder Man's my only friend I've ever had. And they do this handshake here.
So I wrote it as a handshake, Gary. It's not a handshake. And I kind of want to adopt this. Like, if I come up to Portland this fall, I want this to be how you and I greet one another.
This is our handshake from now on.
Hawkeye holds both of his fists straight out in front of him, and Wonder Man holds his palms open as if to say, like, oh, hey, like, hit my palm or whatever, like if we were training. But instead, Hawkeye just walks up and gently presses his fist into Wonder Man's palms. And that's it. There's no like high, low, to the side, around the back. It's just a slow fist into open palm press. And that's how these two people identify with one another. That's how they share, like, their friendship. Because at the time, Hawkeye's saying, like, you're my only friend. You're the only one that I can trust, basically, while slowly pressing his fist into Wonder Man's palm.
The secret knuckle palm technique they've got.
What is this? They do it several times.
It's really good, is what it is. In the music video for Run the Jewels, A Christmas Fucking Miracle, they have a part where they talk about their secret handshake. And they do a handshake and it blurs it out, but it's just a handshake and then they grab the thumbs. Like, they just do that normal handshake thing.
Sure.
It's very funny to me, like, blurring that out so no one sees the secret handshake that's just that.
Very good.
Yeah.
Secret handshakes are amazing, by the way. Like, I am always down. Like, me and my buddies used to have, not necessarily a secret handshake, but just like a routine. Like, oh, hey, we haven't seen each other in a while. We're going to be like, do a dun, 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 like a 3-step thing. Like, not a basketball player, like we have 14 steps that we're going to go through, but, just a 3-step thing, and I'm very much here for that.
Yeah, very, very funny. Tigra, of course, is more on board with Falcon because Falcon saved her. Goes to find Falcon, and Ant-Man and the Wasp look at they're kind of examining the robots. They were able to grab one of the Wasp bots, like weird insect bots. And he's examining it, and it starts to make this, like, noise, this yelling noise. He's like, get out of here. It's a trap, essentially. And Ant-Man starts shooting lasers at it. So the Ultron, one of the other dumb things about this cartoon is that, like, everything is according to the villain's plan, like, all the time, but it never feels like it. Like, everything is like, we just walked into their trap, but it never, like, Ultron does not inspire that confidence.
Yeah, he says later, like, I knew Ant-Man would take one of these to home to expect it. I knew that, and so I had planted this device, and I'm like, I kind of feel like you just planted the device and hoped for the best, or now kind of claiming this after the fact. Like, if it hadn't happened, you just wouldn't have mentioned it.
By creating, like, dozens of them and sending them all at the Avengers. That was how you planted the device, just hoping they would take one home. It's pretty dumb.
I love the fact that when we go back to see Ultron, though, he's designing himself a new body, and to do this, like, he has detached his head, and he just has, like, the dangling spine thing, while some other, like, apparently robot that can't talk is just holding his head and moving it around the room so he can talk to Vision and also, like, the screen.
And he gets all of these different parts put on him, like his new body. There's a part where he's got a crotch, but they put a new, bigger crotch over his crotch, and it cuts over to Vision.
Belts, man, come on.
And Vision, like, tilts his head in a weird way, like, directly as a result. Like, those, like, 30 frames or whatever between those two things are so good.
Yes.
Like, just like his crotch gets upgraded and Vision goes, like, it's very funny to me.
And this is, do we actually see Ultron's new you look? He kind of gets made over here. This is where he gets his giant shoulder pads. Basically, like, Ultron already looked like you would expect Ultron to look like. Like, he looked like a kind of a pretty he was taller than Vision. Like, they go specifically out of their way to show that he was bigger than Vision. But now he's like twice as tall as Vision with huge shoulder pads. Like, he upgraded himself significantly during this project, which, like, why wouldn't you give yourself the Vision body? Why wouldn't you put yourself? Because that's the whole plot of the second Avengers movie. Like, I feel like that's happened in the cartoon, or excuse me, the comic book quite a few times. Why wouldn't you put yourself in the Vision body?
Well, Vision isn't considered a good guy yet. So but the Vision body does seem better and has all those powers. I don't know. We do see because the face off with Ant-Man at the end. So we do see the new Vision body, but it's not, like, in action. I think he's a reoccurring villain. I think he's going to show up later in the season.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The two reoccurring villains in this, I think, are Ultron and the Zodiac. So all you Zodiac yaks, get ready for that.
The Zodiac yaks.
So Ultron gets his mega crotch. Yep. And they come up with this plan to separate the Avengers from one another in an attack. Falcon's at the movies with his nephew, and Ultron has more Transformer buses that start attacking. Falcon has some kind of super strength because he runs forward, picks up a piece of rebar off the ground, which is kind of weird anyway, and then just hurls it like a javelin and explodes a bus.
Yep.
And he's not wearing armor or anything. I don't know how Falcon's doing that shit.
It's the power of nephew protection. I mean, haven't you ever heard when your nephew gets trapped under a car, you get this flood of adrenaline that only an uncle and his nephew can really cause. Like, that's the only kind of relationship that does this.
The avuncular might of Sam Wilson.
Luckily, this sets off an alarm, so Ant-Man knows that it's happening. But all to Ultron's plan, of course, he sends all of the Avengers except himself because he's concerned that if he leaves this self-destructing wasp insect, it'll blow up or something bad will happen. He's got to disarm it somehow. So the Avengers just show up and then just start blowing shit up, just left and right.
Idiot crew shows up,
just blowing up vans just randomly. There's a bunch more fake news vans, which I find hilarious. And then of course figure out right at the end, like, oh, they all stopped attacking. They must have tried to lure us here for some reason. I wonder why. Oh, there's an alarm at the mansion. We should go back there and help Hank. It's a very by the numbers kind of bullshit, which is just so weird.
Yeah, it's a classic move, while the kids are away. So the back of the mansion, which has mostly been destroyed here, a bunch of the mansion has been blown up.
That's something they keep doing. They keep going back to. Like, with every episode, I feel like we harm the mansion even further. Like, Tony's going to come back and be like, what the fuck?
The final episode is just Tony Stark walking up to the ruins of his mansion.
You definitely should have. I mean, you're not getting your security deposit back. I'm sorry.
All I told you guys to do is watch Jarvis. I didn't tell you guys to play hero. I could have handled any Ultrons. You should have just brought in the mail and watered the plants. Yeah. So Ant-Man is fighting these robots. Wonder Man shows up, throws himself in front of Vision's blast, which somehow takes him out. Like the Vision who has this power, who couldn't do this to Ant-Man, which is apparently the thing he was built for, is able to just zap Wonder Man, who is a Superman figure, enough to take him out here. Yeah, and one of the robots goes into self-destruct.
Yep. And
we're at to be continued.
Yeah, Wonder Man just falls down. And it's definitely implied that he's dead, but where it's a Saturday morning cartoon, he's definitely not dead. That's not going to happen. And that takes us into the next episode.
Yep. Avengers Assemble Part 2. Wonder Man is put on life support, and the Avengers must take over where he fell. Meanwhile, Hank meets his worst creation ever, Ultron.
His worst creation ever. What about the toaster? What about the toaster oven that only took $5 bills? I thought that was a pretty bad creation. That seems like a pretty terrible thing to put in the kitchen.
Per slice. Yeah. Can you have to exchange them for Ant-Man tokens? The
malfunctioning vibrator that he made for Jan, that didn't seem to go very many places.
Yeah. It just gets more and more still the more you turn it on.
Hank, I don't think this is working. It's working.
Shut up, Jan.
I can tell.
Don't make me feel small. I'm not joking about his spousal abuse, just his insecurity,
his inability to make get proper sex toys. That's what
he can't calibrate a dildo to save his life. So we open up right as we left off. Scarlet Witch rushes over to Wonder Man, who's barely alive.
Yep.
Tiger jumps in, makes a bunch of cat sounds, but Vision blasts her because that's Vision's pretty rough, pretty tough at this point. They rush Wonder Man to the hospital, but they get attacked by Vision some more. Scarlet Witch gets blasted. Tigra trips him. So that's how we get him. And Wasp sneaks up on him in tiny mode, uses her very cool little laser wasp cannons.
Laser wasp cannons.
And zaps him in the head, knocking the Vision out. So Vision's power levels are all over the fucking place.
I can't believe, number one, this is going to be the argument that breaks this podcast up, but also the way that Tigra, like, so Vision does his normal thing of like, oh, you're trying to shoot at me, I'm going to I'm going to turn into stone or whatever. So Tigra just like does the Star Wars, is it the last? I don't remember what Star Wars it is, but they wraps his feet up and he just literally falls over. Even though he doesn't really try to move as a stone, like he just falls over, and I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, it's like the Tanuki suit from Mario 3, and when she does it, she says, "The harder they are, the bigger they fall."
Yeah, that's not the way that works.
She's reversing the expression, but it doesn't really work.
The harder they are,
it does make you sound like an idiot, Rogue. Like, so that's all it takes is a good solid trip and a good wasp blast to take him out. Hank, you thought he was going to take him to the hospital. He didn't take him to the hospital. He took him to the lab.
Of course.
He's trying to save his life, and Hawkeye just comes in and starts screaming at him. like a moron.
I wish Hawkeye was screaming at him, but why isn't he at a hospital? Take him to a hospital, call 911. You should take him to a real doctor. You're a fake doctor. I'm going to make you feel small. Like, that's the line that I wish we had. But it's not that at all. It's just stuff like, where is he? What's wrong with him? Can you bring him back? What's happening?
He's right there. Like, can you imagine like being Hawkeye's wife and giving birth? And just Hawkeye just like bursting into the operating room like, where's my baby? Is it a son or a daughter? I need to know. Show me what's happened. Give her an EpiPen. Like just like yelling out orders. Like,
poor Linda Cardellini, huh? First Freaks and Geeks and now this.
Freaks and Geeks and Eeks. They're real ridiculous.
So I wrote in my notes that I looked away for a second, and then I came back and like this whole game change. Did you get the same experience? Because I felt like I was typing notes and I was like paying attention to the show, and then like somebody added me or something, and I was like, oh, let me go answer this ad. And then I did that. I looked up, and all of a sudden they're talking about taking Wonder Man's consciousness and put it in this strange robot that they just encountered and blew up. Like that, was there more of a transition than I missed?
There slightly more. Like, I don't know what for some reason I was in a mood where I could pay real close attention to this fucking cartoon. And I think I was putting off something I wanted to do less. Like, there was some other chore I had to do, and I was like, I don't really want to do that. I can watch this Avengers cartoon and it will be work. And I was just real focused in because it wasn't like doing my dishes. So what happens is, Hank says I'm very frustrated. His body is falling apart, but his mind is fine. Which seems like that should actually be pretty common in medicine.
That feels like it should just be something that a doctor could take care of.
Oh, you mean he's sick?
Have you tried Neosporin?
Okay. You mean he has any injury or illness? Okay. Scarlet Witch runs up and says, what if we could get him another body carrying the Vision? Hawkeye says, that's a terrible idea. That's obviously a trap. Which, like, points to you, Hawkeye. This brings you to like negative 970. But like, good point. And then Hank gets real mad and says, like, it's either that or he dies. So that's what they're doing, transitioning his consciousness.
Okay, well that makes more sense.
There's some discussion about
me just looking it up, and then all of a sudden Hawkeye's yelling.
It's like, oh, okay, Wonder Man is Vision now. Okay. So Ultron no longer has Wonder Man to yell at, so he's just screaming in his empty warehouse.
Yep.
About how much he hates Ant-Man. There's really no reason to cut over to Ultron, just reminding us that Ultron's a thing. We go back to Hank, and Hank is doing this tiny surgery by making himself like small enough to go in the blood vessels of Wonder Man and like do this tiny surgery. Mm-hmm. Go into Vision. It's like, and then he switches into Vision. Like, I think that's kind of cool. I wish there had been more to it. Like, he should have fought off some white blood cells or something. But
what are you talking about?
Creative use of,
I can't believe you like this show so much. All you said is how cool it is. You should have fought off some white blood cells. Are you high? Dude, you told me you wouldn't podcast high anymore.
I feel so attacked.
Honey, I Shrunk the Avengers is the movie that you want to see? Do you want him to fight it? Do you want to go outside and swoosh down a leaf or something? Oh my god. This is the dumbest shit ever. He goes like they act like this is a fucking surgery or something. Like he's like, because later on, Hawkeye's like, "What's happening? Is he okay?" He's like, "We'll know we'll know after a while when he wakes up."
It's pretty, like, you don't think it's cool for like somebody who could shrink down to like go do microsurgery? I don't know, man. Like, I think it's kind of cool.
I mean, yeah, it's cool. It's just like the way that this is presented, which is, Ant-Man like riding around in Vision's like corridor veins or whatever. But it's just the idea that you were like sitting there at the house and like, man, fuck those dishes. Yeah. This is cool.
That was me, man. I was earlier when we were making fun of that hypothetical friend who throws in this DVD. All those details I pulled out were not out of nowhere.
Will, watch out. Don't go over to Gary's house.
Listen, all I want to see is a tiny Hank Pym walking down like corridors that look like they're from Marathon. That's like literally all I need out of life. You give me tiny Hank Pym scooting around a vein, and I'm there for it. I'm like, so I'm 100% like, you're right. What I'm doing is I'm taking the idea of what they're doing and being like, that's a cool, like, I'm really grasping, man. I'm drowning.
No, that's fine. No, it's totally fine. You just have terrible taste. It's okay. You don't have to justify it, Gary. It's okay to like bad things. It's okay for me to make fun of you for it too. Like these are things that are all okay. Don't worry. We're in a safe space right now. Like all of the bad things that you want to.
I don't know if this is all okay. I am there for like unusual applications of power.
Yeah.
Superpowers. I think that's cool. This is very consistent with, like, my point is not that you should make fun of me for this. I'm just saying it's nothing new. Mm-hmm. Like, this is very consistent. I like unusual applications of powers. I kind of like Hank Pym. It's not cool. It's not cool scene. I wish they had fought some white blood cells, which I would have been fucking there for it.
Or what if they fought the white blood cells, enslaved the white blood cells, and that's what created the tube of conscious to get Wonder Man's conscious into Vision. You know what I'm saying? Like I can again. There's all kinds of ways this could be better. Like we could be here all day. We want to talk about the ways that it could be better. It's fine. Don't get me wrong. Like it's exactly what you kind of expect in this. The whole concept of this is so fucking bonkers to me, of like, oh, one of our own is down, we're not going to take him to a hospital, but we found this new thing that kind of looks like a dude that is also a robot that we can put his consciousness in, but to do that I have to get tiny. Like, all that sentence makes no sense whatsoever. So
it would have been like the kind of thing where they should have spent like simultaneously more and less time with it, because we waste so much time on the quote unquote action scenes in this thing. Like, this would have been a cool point for, like, character development, right? Like, just like, oh, like, I can't, maybe Tony could have, built him a new robot body, but I'm the best biochemist. Like, I'm the man for this job. I want there to be an arc because I like these characters, is what I'm feeling. Don't worry, like, by the end of the season, this spark of hope will be tamped out in me.
By the end of this episode, man, what are you talking about? It's not going to get that far. So after whatever surgery thing like that they're doing, Hawkeye yells at him, but it luckily is interrupted by Jarvis, who actually I think we see for the first time, who's the standard Butler issue pushing around like a floating thing. But Jarvis is telling everybody that Falcon is there. And Tigra says, oh, well, I'm the one that found him, so I need to go downstairs and talk to him. And I'm like, did you actually go do that? Like, you left, but maybe you just went to the movies. Like, maybe you went to go see The Matrix again, because it was rerun. I don't know. Tigra. God, can you imagine going to the movies with Tigra? Like, every time she gets a popcorn, it's... You're like, what? Can you please stop that?
Yes, I can imagine going to the movies with Tigra.
Ooh.
I can very much imagine going to the movies with Tigra.
I'm just gonna let that one sit. See how that one works.
Mm-hmm. It works good, dude. So Falcon shows up and he's like, you guys are the Avengers. They're kind of arguing about what it means to be Avengers. He says like, are you kidding? Like, the reason why I'm a superhero is because of the Avengers. I'd like to join. Hawkeye says, nuh-uh, we don't just let any geek on the street join us. You gotta be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. We gotta test you. And they start to kind of spar a little bit, but they get interrupted because Vision's woken up. This is where it loses me.
Okay.
Like, it didn't even take to the end of the episode. Because Vision sets up, and all of these super geniuses couldn't account for the possibility that this experimental microsurgery wouldn't work. Because he sits up, like real stiff, looks around a little bit, and then just turns his head and zaps everyone in turn.
It's really
it's
good.
extremely funny. Like
it's really funny.
It's really good.
Also, I like how your Hank Pym hero worship turns it from all of these super geniuses in the room for when something goes bad, but when something goes good, it's just Hank Pym. Who are the other super geniuses in the room, Gary?
Tigra. I'm standing for Hank Pym. Real good,
Jesus.
dude.
I cannot believe it's taken me this long to realize you're a Hank Pym like shipper or something. I don't even know what this is.
Dear Hank, I hope you got my letter.
My name is Gary. I am 37 years old. And you're absolutely right. You're standing for Hank Pym right now, which I don't even like to use that phrase because I know the origins of it, and it's terrible.
It's based on the popular REM song "Stand."
God, that'd be so much better than the song it was based than it was actually based on. This is good. So they rush in to attack Vision, and I think Vision like shoots Red Wing, and Falcon just has that great line of "Hey, nobody blast my bird," which I found very funny.
I love this beam that destroyed Wonder Man. Mildly inconveniences Red Wing, the regular ass Falcon.
Regular Falcon.
Like, whose superpower is being endangered.
The superpower is literally being red. That's it.
Yeah. He's been dyed by a specialty pet groomer.
Hawkeye is about to blast the Vision, and Scarlet Witch uses her power to kind of knock the thing away. Which to me, you mentioned this earlier, to like to change something, but this to me, this is like she like blasted the thing out of the sky.
Oh, so, yeah.
Okay.
Like this is still not. This is before she does cooler things with her powers. Vision recognizes Hawkeye for a second and then falls asleep.
Because that's what robots do when they're tired.
Yep.
When robots get tired, they just fall asleep.
Yep. Teddy Ruxpin's gone into power saver mode.
Quiet now.
We switch back to Ultron. Ultron has made an army of new robots. Like, it looks like he's made just a new Vision, but he's made tons of new Visions.
Yeah, and then
which kind of, why was his plan any of this in the first place if he's got Transformer vans and Super Visions? Like, he should have just like sent an army of robots.
Yeah,
and he would have won.
If you don't let Hank know you're coming, he won't put on his weird battle armor. And you can just probably like shoot him with a gun on the street. Like just cap that dude in the back of the head while he's in a theater. Like read a history book.
Throw a piece of rebar through him. Yeah. He also has this line here.
Yeah. This is great where he actually says like revenge is a dish best served cold, and then says not afterwards.
For some reason I thought he said this is revenge is a dish best served hot.
Oh, maybe I wrote it down wrong. Oh, revenge is the best dish served hot would be even better.
They're both terrible. Like, neither of which is okay.
Very bad.
Yeah. So him and his robot armies fly away to go fight the Avengers, which they should have done in the first place. Back in the tower, Vision is strapped down into like his robot jail, and Wonder Man's body is floating in a tank, still in his full costume.
Yep.
Vision remembers Wonder Man, but he doesn't remember much else. And Hawkeye is understandably, again, in the Wolverine role of being like the one reasonable voice, is pretty pissed. And he's like, you said you were going to bring back Wonder Man, because he's a little kid. Ant-Man says, I never promised he'd be Wonder Man. I just said I would save Wonder Man. What's happening?
I just love the super genius semantics. Look, I said that I would save him. I didn't say that he would be him afterwards. I mean, how could I know that he would turn into a giant insect? That's not on me.
He's the evil priestess from Game of Thrones. Like, like I'll bring back Khal Drogo.
So Ultron attacks the mansion, and like we have all of the scene of like Ultron getting blasted by, and also blasting a bunch of like sentries, a bunch of turrets. And stuff. Which are
the two fountains flip over, which is like the dumbest thing to flip over. Can you imagine just like Hawkeye down there mopping?
It's the dumbest thing. All that water. It's the dumbest thing to flip over in a castle since I finished God of War 2018. Yeah.
that scene is ridiculous. So he's fighting turrets. It's kind of like tower defense. Avengers mansion here. Ant-Man does see him on the monitor or whatever, or goes out and sees him. He's like, I don't know who this is. Sick burn. And then everyone armors up for a long time.
Yeah. You have to go through the whole thing.
Time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Ultron is using like his mind control radio waves or whatever to make it hard for Vision to turn into Wonder Man. So Vision breaks away, flies away to get out of there. And we kind of have just a fight, like Mega Big Ultron and his Legion of Robots versus the Avengers.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a stiff, shitty Avengers United They Stand style fight.
Yeah, they this fight is really boring. Like, and it's one of those things of like, there's a moment here where I thought something cool was going to happen, where Hank says like, "Okay, everybody, like coordinate and do this," and then they just all throw some grenades at him, and I'm like, well, I mean, like you guys are superheroes. Why are you carrying grenades, and why? What are you doing here? The big thing that happens here is that two of the like insect wasp robots sneak inside and steal Wonder Man's body, which, boy, Hank Pym just does not get enough shit about in the next few episodes about this. This seems like a loss. This seems like taking a big old L. Yes. I'm just saying, your superpowered body that you just put into Vision, who does not remember that he's Wonder Man, also just got stolen by your worst creation after the toaster that takes $5 bills.
They did say, like they do say, like, oh, it was all part of Ultron's plan. Which, like, you gotta stop saying that, dude. Like, you were giving Ultron a lot of credit. Like, if every time I made a mistake, there was somebody who was around to just say it was all part of my plan, like, that would do wonders for my ego. And I'd probably turn into a supervillain, too. Like, every single time I stub my toe, someone's like, aha, you planned that. And I was like, no, yeah, I did.
No.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah. I would eventually turn into an Ultron as well. So
Ant-Man almost dies here, I think, is what
he stands in front of a beam. Yeah. He gets real big. Wasp says he can't stay at that size for very long. Then he shrinks and he's going to die because he's getting hit by a beam, because all anyone does in this is stand next to each other and shoot each other like fucking a Final Fantasy fight.
Yep.
Yeah. But Vision has got his groove back and saves him. And then Ant-Man says, like, Ultron's getting pissed because he doesn't know who he is. Vision says, like, I don't actually understand you because I think we destroyed you. And they kind of go back and forth, and this is the character moment that is unearned, where Hank Pym says, like, I tried, or, I didn't really know what I was doing. And Ultron says, like, you didn't make me, I made me, and it's just all these daddy issues.
Yeah, I'm not perfect, so you're not perfect. Well, you didn't make me, I made me, so I'm perfect. Therefore, Vision's perfect. And it's like, Vision just has not worked out at all. Also, Wonder Man is there. Like,
have you met Vision?
Can you roll that back? He is 0 for 5. All right, he's not doing well. He's the U.S. men's national team. He's not doing great. And so Ultron just leaves. He's like, "See ya," and just flies out, and like they don't chase him or bother him at all.
He pulls a real Mr. Sinister. He like runs down an alley. This is his exit move. Here. And Ultron, he stole Wonder Man's body, which they say that was his plan, but they don't actually take that much time because they need to make the Vision and Falcon official Avengers, which involves Vision doesn't do this. Vision actually doesn't have an armored up costume. He's like always armored, but Falcon steps into the weird chamber and gets his armor montage.
Oh, this is where they get the chamber. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, now I remember this. Wow, I watched this yesterday and I've already got shit. I'm already forgetting about it.
And then Ant-Man says, "You know what, Hawkeye, you're still part of the team," which like doesn't address any of this government bullshit. Like that should have been again a turning point. Like we will operate outside the government or something. But Captain Senator, or whatever the name of that superhero is still mad that Hawkeye's around.
Well, I mean, he did cause the president to lose an eye. Like, let's keep this in perspective.
Yeah, I mean, he's right, and also they just ignored it. And it does that get dealt with in the next 2 episodes?
Nope,
not remotely,
not at all. It's good stuff though. That's fun.
Yeah, very funny.
Gary, this show is really bad. It's not good. I don't actually recommend that anybody watches this. It was all I could do to finish it, but I'm getting some good chuckles out of it just because it's so fucking ridiculous. Like it's like no wonder Marvel was going bankrupt. They had no idea what they were the power they were holding in their hands back then. They were just kind of throwing stuff against the walls and trying to get some stuff to stick, and it just was not working. Mm-hmm. This is not a good series of television.
Yeah. It's extremely bad, with the one exception of Hank Pym shrinking down to go into a vein. I gotta draw a line in the sand. Is
that really the line that you're gonna draw? Like he shrank down and went to he literally did a Rick Moranis, and we're talking about this.
I will die for this.
I'm going to name this episode Gary Stands Hank Pym as soon as I figure out the proper verbiage on how all that works. I don't really know how to. I don't know how my lingo works. Is it stand? Stands. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Stand in the place where you live. No, I mean, I agree. This is terrible. This is fucking terrible. What I said in the beginning of the thing, I do think that the next episode is a better episode of this cartoon. Like, I think this is a uniquely terrible week opening. Mm-hmm. The next one is a little bit better. And I just want to make it clear, like, people are going to come away from this thinking I'm very positive. Like, I am still putting these in the C- to D+ range of things. Yeah. Like, I think that the best, like, the next episode is like a C- or C. But these episodes are like a D+. Like, these are really bad. So, just putting it in perspective here, like, this is the worst thing we've covered so far on this show.
Oh, absolutely, because the Spider-Man stuff actually was kind of good. Like, there's some bad moments, but like
I even mean like with X-Men 3 and the Wolverine. Like, I think this is worse.
Yeah, the first half of X-Men 3 is still pretty good. Like, I still have a lot of affection for that. So,
yeah.
Into it.
This is somehow worse.
Do you want to take us out of here?
Yeah, I mean, so thanks everybody for listening. If you like this show, the best way to support it is to buy it on DVD and support the voice actor who played my hero, Hank Pym.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If you like the podcast, though, the best way to support it is to go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Really do appreciate that. You can also leave ratings and reviews. We read those and we see them, and it's very sweet.
It's true. And it's been a while since this one has had a review, so go leave us a review if you hadn't. Or if you know friends that are into X-Men or Marvel or bad cartoons or what have you, just point them our way. I bet they would get a kick out of the show.
I like to hope so. And you can also talk about us on message boards, things like that. Just spread the word individually. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at DOFC Podcast on Twitter.com. And you can follow Jeremy at JG Greer.
That's true too.
On Twitter, and me at Gary Buh, GARYBUH.
Do we want to talk about the bundle, the Diggity Duck bundle?
Oh, we can talk about the bundle. Yeah. It's been long enough. Even though on the top of my head, I have forgotten the exact charities for it, which is like, I thought we were actually completely done with it, but Cole still got a couple things to record, which I didn't know. Okay. But it will still be done by the time this is out.
Okay.
You can go to Duckfeed.tv/store and pick up Duck Bundle 2. Last year we did an episode on the Generation X TV movie, which is one of my favorite episodes of the show.
Same.
And this year we did an episode on the X-Men anime, which, boy, like when I say this is the worst thing we covered for the show,
I forgot about that X-Men anime. Yeah. You really did not like that.
I really did not like that. It did have like better, like 1,000 times better character designs and action. You know, I think I do think the anime is better than this. So that's saying something. But yeah, we covered that, which I really did not like. Jeremy liked it a little bit more than me. It was a little bit like a reverse of this episode.
Well, I mean, how are you going to like it? There's no Hank Pym to really carry you through. You need that hook.
Hank McCoy is it's like the methadone for me, for Hank Pym. But we covered that. I think that's a fun episode. We moved through those pretty quick because, spoiler, nothing fucking happens in it.
But by the end of that episode, it's maybe, because I think there's 12 or 13 episodes, and we're just like talking about one episode for maybe a few minutes at a time, because it's just kind of repeats of everything that had happened in the previous episode. Yeah, which doesn't feel very. It's got
a severe case of anime pacing.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's a real fun episode. There's also fun episodes of all of my shows except for Heartbeat City. Because I didn't have a backlog of questions for it, but there is a good WAF. Me and Cole talk about Phazanadu, that NES game, which is kind of like weirdly atmospheric and Souls-like for an NES game.
Interesting.
Super fun. There is an episode of Teenage Dirtbags, which we talk about Run the Jewels, Close Your Eyes and Count to Fuck. There is a special, it would be cynical if it wasn't for charity. We brought back Bonfireside Chat to talk to Richard Pilbeam about cut content in Bloodborne and data mining in Bloodborne. And that's a really good episode.
Yeah.
A really good overview of that stuff.
He's extremely knowledgeable about that stuff. I chat with him all the time, and he's got a handle on all of the different people that are doing that. Like there's probably like 5 or 10 people that are relatively well known to do that kind of content and all working on different stuff. And man, it's gotten crazy. It's even gotten crazier since you did that episode, which is pretty impressive. So.
And it's cool because it justified bringing, like, we don't know a lot about this stuff. That's why we brought Richard in, but I think it's a really good overview because that stuff is moving so fast and there's so much of it. I think we do a really good job of keying in, if you're not the person who's watching like every single Sana Deske, and Lance McDonald YouTube, like this is a really good overview of the high points of what's been discovered.
So, into it. I can't wait to listen to that. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Yep. I'm really excited about it as well. It's super good. There's going to be a Radio Free Midworld. We're bringing back, we're going to do a short file underwater as well.
Cool. Awesome.
So there's some stuff that's coming up for it. So, it should be real good.
Are you guys going to cover the podcast that covers REM? You're just going to do an episode on you talking REM to me?
Are you talking REM, REM me, REM, RES? No, we're going to do, the Automatic for the People reissue that has all the bonus tracks. We're going to talk about the bonus material on that edition. So, so there's just a bunch of stuff. Those, work, it's $10 minimum, but it's pay what you want, and everything goes to 3 charities. One of which is Life After Hate. The other 2 of which I cannot recall at this moment. One of them, one's women and one's guns.
One's women and one's guns.
Yep. Anti-guns, anti-racist, and, pro-women are the 3 things.
Did you say anti-women and pro-guns? Is that what you said?
No. Huh? Please don't try to Hank Pym a Hank Pymmer. Like, I ain't gonna fall for that.
Hey, just a fun fact for the people that stayed through all the admin stuff. I was looking up to see if the guy who's playing Hank Pym is still alive because I thought it'd be kind of funny to get his autograph for you and to present it to you. And I don't think he is, number one. So R.I.P. Hank Pym. But also he was the new Gambit voice in season 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was bad Gambit.
I'm Hank Pym.
In Graduation Day, and the Phalanx Covenant Part 2 of the X-Men animated series. So
it's a
fun little factoid for all of you people that hung in through the admin. We appreciate it.
Yeah. You not only do get to hear admin, but you also get factoids. The next episode, if factoids are too complicated, we're going to be introducing factoidoids.
Yes,
which absolutely. Are even smaller bits of factual information.
We're just going to shrink down and get all up inside the facts veins to be able to try to do surgery.
If you think that the thing Jeremy said was too complicated, eventually it's just going to be like, Hank dead is Gambit. And then we're just going to move on.
It'd be a lot shorter, to be honest with you. Yeah. If you, or for some reason, have the desire to watch the show along with us, you can kind of keep up at when we're going to be releasing episodes at daysoffuturecast.com/schedule. I keep all that updated with, and you can find out which episodes are we're going to come out for which podcast episode. And then after this, if you have any questions about the show, or while we're doing the show, or while we're talking about these cartoons, or why Carrie stands Hank Pym, which is not a sentence I expected to say today, go ahead and use the contact form over there, daysoffuturecast.com/contact. We are going to have a feedback episode after this. That'll be for Days of Future Past, the movie that we covered, the 2 Spider-Man episodes we covered, and of course all of the Avengers United They Stand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to that. Yeah. Until next time, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you later, everybody.
And good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Almost.